Hey guys, alright? It's Brett from IBMA. How's it going? Let me just adjust this. There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to do this video. I've got a new phone or whatever, so this is, as a lot of my live streams, this is just a bit of a test one. But I wanted to do this video as just a bit of a roundup of 2019 for people who follow the channel. Thanks to all the guys that follow the channel, and thanks to the Patreon subscribers who just contribute to the channel. But yeah, I wanted to do this video as a roundup of the training of 2019, a bit of a summary, a bit of a Q&A, and also, a look into what training is going to go on in 2020. So yeah, just let me know if you do find the stream. Just let me know if the footage quality is all right, because I don't know. It's a bit of a roundup. Apologies for my terrible haircut. I got massacred at one of the local barbershops before Christmas. I asked them to cut my hair nicely, and they just kind of did this weird thing that they did here, which is actually my stupid hairline, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, look, a few new things. So we've got you might have seen if you follow the channel, we've got the functional basics series that I put up. So I think I put up 4 or 5 videos from the functional basics series. So that's something new. And a lot of people have been asking me about that functional basics series. And yeah, all I wanted to say about that is, for anyone who doesn't know doesn't think it's clear, the functional basics series, and it's going to build, is a series that I wanted to do to capture a lot of core movements and core principles. In other words, it's like a snapshot. It's like a snapshot of what I had to do to get where I am now. But also it's a bit amended, So it's the stuff I remember doing. It's the stuff I do now. It's things like that, and that'll help. And I believe that'll help people. So that's cool. So have a look at the functional basics series. If you get a chance. There were about 4 or 5 videos that I posted to the channel, and they were all on the channel, and now there's only the first one, and the rest of them are on the Patreon. But if people really want to see them, I can bring some back or send them to individuals, but also, I have to look after the Patreon guys and put more stuff there, and etc. So that's all good. What else have we got? Training in 2019, mainly focused on training on 2019 mainly focused on functional strength and conditioning training, endurance training, which is good. Into 2020, I feel the need for some more Qigong style training, some more iron palm training, bringing that into alongside the Qigong training, and some more conditioning training, which is going to come in now, because I literally I've done basically a year of I've done basically a year of endurance and toughness training to build strength in the legs, and now it'll be good to make a change on that and build something better than that, and make a change on that, which will be good. I hope everyone has a good New Year, and everyone had a good Christmas. And moving forward, I hope everyone stays safe out there, and nothing goes wrong. I've had a few people come forward on some of the videos that I've done. There's someone saying hi. Hi there. I'm sorry, I can't read your name because it's in another language. But yeah, I've had a few people coming forward with questions on making certain gadgets and stuff like that I've put in the training videos. So I'll do some videos on that. There's it's Tibetan. Oh wow, that's awesome. Someone tuning in all the way from Tibet. Someone coming all the way from Tibet to listen to my ramblings. Well, hello. It's nice to have you here. Let me have some of my water. Oh, okay. Oh, well, there we go. Not from Tibet. It looks cool. You get points for it looking cool. Yeah, guys. So a lot been going on. the strength and endurance and toughness training that I've been doing over the last sort of year, I believe is important for martial arts. And a lot of styles, or like traditional Shaolin Kung Fu, will do it at the beginning with the students, with all the running and the sandbags and the carrying. It's like functional strength stuff, which I think is important. Um, the thing is, like in this modern day, I don't know if you guys agree, but in this modern day, a lot of us don't do as much stuff as our predecessors used to do. Okay, this might be different. Um, yeah, Masutatsu Oyama is, on a side note, someone just commented, Masutatsu Oyama is one of my personal sort of heroes and icons. Albeit some of the stories of him are probably a bit embellished, but yeah, he's always been someone I've looked up to from conditioning point of view. Yeah, very good master, very inspirational person. But yeah, as I was saying before, our predecessors, we don't do as much as our predecessors. So a lot of people wonder, like a lot of people do martial arts, or they wonder like who are the tough guys these days? Generally, the tough guys are like, people who, like, or generally considers like truck drivers, not truck drivers, but like tradespeople, they're people who in their day-to-day life do a lot of stuff and have that general level of toughness, bricklayers, scaffolders, a lot of these people in certain countries are considered like tough because generally if you're a scaffolder, you have to lift these scaffold bars all day and you've got a mechanical toughness about you. Yeah, that's different to like going to the gym. So that was why I think that a general endurance and toughness training, similar to what I've been doing over the last year, is important. So bearing weight over distance, carrying heavy bags, 15, 10 kilos, straining the tendons, doing walks with weight on you, doing runs, uphill runs, just stuff like that makes your body uncomfortable, that shows you actually how strong your body is. Because you can get 5-10 kilos, like you get a load of shopping and you walk out to the car or wherever across the road, and even if you're a pretty strong person, it already starts to like get tiring on your fingers. And if that's the case, you should think, oh damn, I need to train a bit more of those things so that these simple levels of toughness increase, and that'll help my martial arts. So that's where I was coming from those regards. But anyway, if you're interested in all that stuff, look back on 2019 or look back on the intro profile video of this, and I'll be doing a bit more of it, just ticking over. And I put a video up yesterday of just some conditioning toughness training I was doing, some endurance training, sorry, I'll call it. So it was just me like carrying a 15 kilo sandbag, and I was doing uphill runs, doing some press ups, uphill runs, a bit of stone grip work with a big stone. And then like a long fast march or walk with that same 15 kilo bag, holding it in each hand and just holding it in uncomfortable ways. Today I'm probably going to do, because I've done that, actually, so someone said, question here, do you think strongmen like Eddie Hall have good bone density? Of course they do, yeah. And this goes on to what I was saying, that bearing weight, and simple things like that, anything you can do like that is of course going to increase your bone density. These strong men have awesome bone density, I'm sure, from lifting the weights that they lift, because obviously primarily it's the muscles, but your muscles draw on your bones. Your muscles are connected to tendons connect to the bone, I'm sorry, the muscles have anchor points in the bones as well. That are connected into the bone. That's what I meant. So it's all the skeleton is the freaking framework that all your elastic components stretch and pull on. And that's also why into 2020 want to explore more into the Qigong side of things, because you know, I've had quite in the old videos I did used to show some qigong, or I'd talk about it, but I'd never really go in depth into it, and that's just because, yeah, I just kept my training to myself. So there's quite a few people who have asked me about that, and there's, I think, pointers that I can at least share and show out there and other people to train. Some good stuff to train. So more qigong, more belly breathing. So mainly just trying to introduce to people new to the channel and to younger martial artists and stuff the kind of the like functional aspects of qigong and breath training. For instance, I'll give you a tidbit here for anyone who's listening. Some people say, you know, well, how do I train my breath? How do, you know, what do I do? You know, how do I do reverse breathing? And you read books about it, and it says like draw in your belly and this and that, but it's difficult. So a simple one for you guys, and I gave it. Oh, someone mentioned standing under waterfalls, so we'll talk about that, the cold water on the head. But a simple method is just you protrude your lips, and you breathe in like that, as if you're trying to like suck through a big straw or something. And you'll see it's a traditional method. It's a traditional iron wire method breathing, and you'll see that it like pulls your stomach in. So that's reverse breathing right there. You use that for a technique called fanning the flames, where you stand and you breathe in, and it sucks your stomach in. So look, for instance, if I show you here, when you do that breathing, yeah. And that method, fanning the flames, you would usually do at the start before your training. You know, you wake up, you're a bit cold, whatever. So you do a bit of a jog, a warm up, whatever. And then you do that breathing. You breathe in through your lips like that with your fists on your kidneys. You hold your breath, you pack everything down. You rub the kidneys, because as you guys might know, in sort of Chinese medicine and sort of philosophy, the kidneys are considered like the powerhouses of your shen, or your energy, or your qi. You rub them, you do that a couple of times. It's called fanning the flames because if you do it for a few seconds, and you'll see that you start to actually heat up and stretch and strengthen. Yes, John's recognized it straight away there. Tidsin Quen iron wire, yeah, it's an iron wire breathing. Which someone asked me the other day, actually. I've got an old iron wire video, and someone was like, oh, well, you know, what does that do? And what's that for? And sometimes, you know, because I've been training various things of martial arts for so many years, I take for granted that people don't realize maybe what these things do. And just in answer to the question that one of the guys has asked, John, who just mentioned the iron wire training is like a complete body strengthening system. It's a qigong basically. So it addresses breathing. Oh, what's this talking? How do some get broken bones when they? Oh, so someone's just asked, well, if which we'll get to. Someone's just asked, well, if strong men are so strong, how come they break their bones? Well, that's because their muscles put a disproportionate amount of force onto their bones. So your bones can only densen up to a certain extent. And then the muscles can grow more. Also, these guys take performance enhancing substances. A lot of them, unfortunately, I might get flamed for saying so, but it's just a factual truth. Sorry, excuse me there. Hello? Oh yeah, I'm alright. Can I give you guys a call back? I'm just busy. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah. Sorry about that. People phoning me. So yeah, that's the strongmen. That's the strongman side of things. But yeah, there's lots of reasons. I mean, those guys are also so strong. I don't, you know, I'm very impressed and amazed by what they do, and they're also very what's the word? Inspirational. But but the forces that those guys are lifting, you know, the body has a limit. Obviously, the body has a limit, and the weights those guys are lifting, you know, you're talking hundreds of kilos. Yeah, it's it's such a lot. It's such a lot of force. So you got to give your hats off to them. That's, you know, you're going to get injuries when you're training to that high level. So in mention to the next question that came on, but hopefully John might answer that. Yeah, iron wire is a complete system. But again, it's training, it's a qigong, it's to train the tendons by movements, the lymphatic system through moving the tendons, and also and the breath and tension in the body. So different areas of tension in the body. So it's a very awesome training system, and I like it. I'm not complete sort of master of it or anything. I don't profess to be, but it's an interest of mine, and I pursue that interest just like everything else that I do. So there will be other people who know more about it than me, but I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. Can't see. The problem is I can't see. I can't see the messages once they pop up and then disappear. So that's a shame. Because someone just asked a question there and I missed it. No. Oh, it kind of flashed up there and then disappeared. Oh, it's gone now. But yeah, no, that's a cool stream of topic of talking. I trailed off onto the qigong breathing. Oh, that's what we were talking about, qigong. So yeah, I want to 2020 and just do a bit more qigong stuff because it's really cool, and my ideas on qigong, the sort of qigongs that I practice. Someone asked me about it the other day, and they were like, "Oh, well, you know, what do you practice? When do you practice it?" And I kind of told them, "Well, look, I kind of practice it all the time. You know, like I don't just stand here and then go, or I rarely get to just stand and go, okay, now I'm going to do 10 minutes or half an hour of qigong. I'll be walking around, I'll be doing my day-to-day stuff, and I'll stop for a moment and I'll do some like belly breathing. I might do a few movements incorporated in some training that I'm doing, because it's usually linked to training. For instance, if you're doing, someone asked Qigong and Heigong, any difference? If I'm pronouncing it right. Someone's also asked about eagle claw. As I'm not Chinese and I don't speak Chinese, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between those two. I would suggest it's a language translation, and there may be a little variance. It would matter on what the words are. You know, like for instance, we know qigong, whatever the direct translation is, that is, you know, energy. But yeah, I don't know that word HEI. I don't know that word in Chinese. So someone just put up about eagle claw masters, like putting in dents in trees, or the wooden dummies and stuff. And this is certainly something that is plausible. You know, you can train your grip. Also, if you're striking onto the wooden dummies, you know, I used to have my wooden dummy that I used to have a couple of years ago, and I used to practice my forms on that. And every now and then you'll hit with a certain fist, and you might strike in with the fingers, and you know, to like a vital point or whatever. And obviously after lots and lots of striking, you know, once you get warmed up and your fingers get conditioned, you can start to see little dimples and little bits and pieces on your wooden dummy and stuff like that. So certainly, if that was happening to me at my sort of level, then if you trained it more and more and more, then it would be, of course, 9 count fingertip push-ups. John's put on there. John mentioned about the iron wire training, and he's put the fingertip. Yeah, fingertip push-ups are great. Do you know chin na, the gripping skill? Is it chin na? Sorry, or is it dim mak? No. What am I thinking? Yes, I think I'm going for chin na. the gripping skills, and also for dim mak. There, I remember seeing a documentary about, I think it was someone correct me if I'm wrong. It's Chim. We know dim mak is the striking the pressure points, and I believe Chin Na is the gripping and locks and stuff. But anyway, there was a master of that field. I remember watching on a documentary, and he said because obviously for dim mak, striking the acupressure points, a lot of the guys, obviously it's a lot of finger strikes, so the guys really need to strengthen their fingers. So they do, one of the masters was saying one of the main things they were doing, and he was showing, was just fingertip work. Just simple stuff done again and again. It wasn't complicated stuff. It wasn't like them striking their fingertips into iron bags and this and that and all this fancy stuff. He was just like him doing fingertip push-ups, and he got to a point where he could spring himself off the ground and land onto his fingers, and spring himself off the ground and land onto his fingers. And it was just the simple act of doing fingertip push-ups, and then like fingertip push-ups on the two fingers, like the sword finger, and then obviously he could use those to strike various acupressure points. But that's just a classic thing of like what I would call iron body kung fu or iron body martial arts, or it's a classic. It reflects a classic ideal of what I'm trying to show in this channel of mine. Is that I saw on a thread on Reddit. In Reddit, I didn't know what Reddit is, but I just went on there to see what it was, and I saw something on a thread on there. People speaking about it. Hi, it's Nick. Hey Nick, how you doing? Happy New Year, mate. Good to see you. I saw a thread on Reddit about the similar topic. Someone said something about conditioning, and yeah, it's just more often than not, it's a case of keeping it simple rather than like making it complicated. Oh, and that's what it was. Sorry, it was on one of the Kung Fu forums, and someone was like, "Can I do Kung Fu without doing all the mystical, spiritual stuff?" And I was there like hitting my head, going like, "Well, no, Kung Fu is primarily." Kung Fu, you all know, means hard work. That's all it means, or one with devotion, or whatever the direct translation is. It's generally accepted that it means a hard-earned skill. And there's a couple of different translations of what it is, but generally in our language, it just means a hard-earned skill. You can have Kung Fu at weaving. You can have Kung Fu at pouring oil through the eye of a freaking needle. That's Kung Fu. So, Andy Hug. Sorry, someone said Andy Hug's the only person who can use an axe kick and fight properly. I don't know who Andy Hug is. I probably should, and I apologize to Andy Hug or Hugh, but yeah, I don't know who that is. We'll get on to axe kicks actually. But yeah, in Kung Fu, that's what I wanted to show with this channel, and going back to what I said. But yeah, Kung Fu is simple methods trained a lot with mind, yeah, and thought and wisdom, and yeah. So you don't have to be. There's no spiritual side to it, and going back onto what I was saying about dim mak, I know I mentioned dim mak, but I was going to make a video on the subject. Maybe Nick will put his 2 cents in here. I know he will. But the it's almost like the mystical side of Kung Fu, almost. It's a cultural thing, but the mystical side of Kung Fu outside the Chinese culture is actually more damaging to Kung Fu than it is helpful. Because in the West, we get it mixed up and we get it wrong, and people think it's all these like magical energies, and they waste time doing stuff. It's a physical action. Like I did an interview with Plum Dragon Herbs, like a podcast thing, and that will be coming out soon. They do some good podcasts, and they were asking me the same thing about Qigong and this and that and next thing, and I said to them, look, yeah, okay, there might be a mystical energy level, and yeah, visual realization is a strong tool, and the brain has proved it works, but ultimately, I believe Qigong and all the Qigongs, they're physical actions, much like the iron wire training. It's people write all these mystical, magical stuff about it, the Titsin Quen iron wire, but actually it's physical tension of the body, stretching of the tendons, mobilizing of the lymph nodes, adjusting of the spine and back, and posturally getting things correct, stimulating the organs through movements and breathing, and improving your breath through muscular control. These are the actual things you want. Yeah, and people get those through not thinking about them. So that's fine. Like a master says, look, just do this, breathe like this, and move your hands. And they're doing the actions anyway without ever knowing it. But knowing it is good. Yeah, someone's just said that people confuse a lot of this stuff with anime. Yeah, I guess certainly the younger generation might do that, confuse things with anime. But yeah, that's the problem. But I don't want to dismay people, because some people come to Kung Fu because they seek, or come to traditional martial arts because they seek like a spiritual side of things, and they want that connection, and they want that energy, and they want that peace, and they want that mindset, and that's fine. And it's proven now. There's current studies on mindset and like reconditioning of the brain that have proven that your thoughts and your actions and stuff can change the whole way your body acts. So it's fine to be this really peaceful, loving person who believes in energies and does all that things. It's fine. As long as you're doing your training, you'll get your results. So that's all that matters. But it's when you get led astray, and where my tangent has gone on this. I've been gone off on a tangent, but where it comes back to, and why I went off on this tangent is because I mentioned Dim Mak. Yeah. Now, Dim Mak isn't. I know pressure points through my martial arts experience. I know there are pressure points, simple ones, and I know you can strike them. Like through my jiu-jitsu, traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu training, they do Kyusho, and through Chinese Kung Fu, there's other ones. And if Nick Myers is on, he will probably also know more, but I know he does Jeet Kune Do, so I'm not sure if they have them there, but he's also got a lot of knowledge in other things. But anyway, the danger of those things, and there's probably some really awesome Dim Mak acupuncture masters out there, but that's cool. Like generally acupuncture works. And yes, if you were good enough and you were trained enough to strike specific acupressure points, you could probably and can probably cause people harm. But with regards to a fight and self-defense and actually defending yourself, there are very few points you can strike effectively that would instantly destroy your enemy. Yeah, there are very few points. So that's where there is also around Dim Mak, that's what I meant. The danger of airy-fairiness in martial arts and energies is that you've got to be weary like this. Then you start going into the world of the no-touch stuff. John said again, cognition of the brain equals cognitive psychology. Thanks, John. John's putting out some good points there, actually. He's noticed some good stuff. I bow to him. A head bow. So yeah, that was another video I was gonna and wanted to make. Is the dangers of there are certainly dangers of the no-touch scene of martial arts and the energy knockout scene, and that somehow seems to have like amalgamated with the Dim Mak scene, which is a shame. Yes, oh mate, that is the worst side of martial arts. Like the moment you start creeping into, and I'm going to do a video of my Keeping It Real series on the whole no touch scene, but it's a shame because Dim Mak itself and striking points on the body is a complicated and legitimate and awesome art. And even on YouTube there's one or two like good guys who show it, but I think also they are also of the belief that you got to be realistic about it. But yeah, it's a really in-depth art and it's cool, but it shouldn't be confused with the no-touch knockout. Even if someone's a Dim Mak master, I don't care. I mean, I'm really open-minded, but if someone was a really respectable Dim Mak master and I saw what they're doing, I was like, yes. If they started to talk about no-touch stuff, I would have to start dissolving away into the background because it's It's just a no-no. I've never seen any no-touch stuff that's reputable. It's always bullshit. Yeah, and I would love it to be. I'm like you guys. I would love the no-touch stuff to be like freaking. I want someone to come forward and be like, cha, and no-touch knockout someone. No, I would. That's like my dream. It would be like, yes, you know, it all exists. But I just, when I see it, I turn away. Ramsey, do you mean Ramsey Dewey is pretty legit, and Jesse Enkamp? Yeah, I've seen Rams. I watched some of Ramsey Dewey's videos. He's a funny guy. John said again about the spinal cord. Yes, and it's a good point that John mentions that, because that was one of the points I was going to say. So, for instance, from a dim mak point of view, or from a striking pressure point of view, like simple actual self-defense ones that you can use immediately are the neck strikes. Yeah, so we all know that. So that's an example of dim mak working. If you strike into the neck here, and you guys probably know this, so I don't need to tell you, but legitimately, if you do the old funny judo chop from freaking James Bond, boom, if you strike someone in the neck there, it legitimately stuns them, if not knocks them out. I've done it in training. I've accidentally, when I was younger in my training, I've done it by mistake. Just like being training with guys and put like in Bujinkan or in Jiu-Jitsu, you'd call it a shito. You'd put a shito chop in there once you were training. And yeah, boom, you'd hit like, I was a teenager at the time. I'd go like that and hit a like a 30-something-year-old guy, and he'd be like, ooh, like fall on the floor. So those are legit. And of course, if you trained your fingers and you were doing like mantis style or whatever, and you moved and you struck into that point there, where you can put someone out with a blunt edge chop. If you then pinpoint that point in between the muscle bundle and you strike in there, especially here, we used to attack here with the thumb grab. I remember that was one of the Bujinkan or Jiu-Jitsu attacks, grappling or whatever, and you'd actually, it's a knife attack in there with the tanto, where you'd stick it in between the muscle bundle and flick outwards, and of course everything goes, or you grab it there. Lumbar can affect the digestive tract. Yeah, so there we go. John's saying that the lumbar can. The spine and your alignment can affects your whole body. So there we go. That goes back to us saying that Qigong posturally and movements and massaging of the back and spine, and that that's how it makes your organism work better. So we'll do some more Qigong stuff this year. And again, I'll say it's only my ideas. I don't mean my ideas as in like I made it up, but it's only my training and my ideas that I put out. If I put someone else's ideas out, I will tell you. And yeah, it's not, don't take it as gospel, but if it helps you, take it on board and give it a try. And John, I hope will be also commenting or showing on some of those, because he's obviously seems to be knowledgeable on the subject. Kyle's asked about the no-touch stuff. Well, Kyle, as we were just saying, I presume the no-touch stuff comes from like an area of dim mak. John's just asked, is iron body training good for diabetes? Well, I'll get on to that. But yeah, I presume the no-touch stuff comes from an area of dim mak, or something else, or Kyusho or Kiai, or whatever martial art you do. There's always an area of like projection of intention. But my stance on no-touch is, as much as I would want it to be real, I've never seen a reputable no-touch. And all the videos or demonstrations I've seen of no-touch, I don't endorse whatsoever. I think the moment, like I said before, the moment someone starts to talk to you about no-touch, I mean, yes, there are esoteric things that exist out there. Like, I've had people do demonstrations on me before where like they stand up behind you and they put your fingers behind you and you can kind of feel it. And of course, there's Qigong healing and stuff like that. And there's Qigong and Reiki masters who heal you through energy fields, or I don't know what mechanic they use. And that's all seems to be in the realms of legitimate, or we don't understand how it works, but it seems to work. Whether it's like acupressure or acupuncture style or whatever it is, magnetism, who knows? But no touch. I've never seen it. Sensory perception, I believe in. Like, for instance, in the Bujinkan or the Jiu-Jitsu I used to train, the 5th Dan test is that you kneel down and someone chops for your head with a shinai, which is like either a wooden sword, a bokken, or a shinai, which is like a bamboo practice kendo sword, and you have to you look away, and as the chop comes down for your head, you have to dodge it. And I remember when I first started training it, I was like, well, you know, like, how the hell do you ever know how to dodge it? But then years later through training, it's actually doable. It's a doable thing, and it is a good test, because a lot of people raise concerns about this 5th Dan test, but it is an actual good test to see, because when you're a martial artist and you train like Budo or fighting martial arts, and you're in the real life situation, everyone will tell you, like bouncers, they tell you about like reading people's intent. And a lot of times, like, you read a lot of books by a lot of bouncers, they'll be like, I knew what the guy was kind of going to do before he do it. He had a bad intent. He gave off a bad energy. These are things that as human beings, like, we can read. And people have explained it in different ways. I even saw an article saying that when people, because we're electrical and physiological beings, I saw an article about how the scientists had studied that when you behave in a certain way, you give off like hormones or pheromones. Like when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're scared or whatever, you give off like a hormone or a smell that is actually like, I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually detected by the person. It's like an archaic system that we still have in our body that we sort of used to use as animals, where you can sense the sort of the mood of someone else by this pheromone that they give off. That's a pretty cool idea. Other people suggest it's like facial expressions and body language, which is also, it's probably a mix of those things. But when you're kneeling down facing away from your attacker and they're attacking down for you, then you wonder what it is, you know. And me and my instructor used to practice that test quite a lot, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you wouldn't. But generally you'd get it right when they gave off the right intent. You know, like if they just went like this. So like it's weird, because if you got like, usually if you got like new students to do it to each other, one would grab the sword and they just go like that, and they'd hit each other in the head every time, or they'd be like, I want to hit you in the head, and they go like that and hit each other every time. But when you got guys who would train properly for some time, or at least had the right mindset, and instead of giving off that intent of, I'm going to hit you on the head, you gave off this intent of like, I'm going to kill you, more often than not, the guy would dodge every time. Like, you wouldn't breathe, you'd hold your breath, you would stand on the wooden floor so you wouldn't really make a creak on the mats, and you'd just make a last second chop for this guy with no sound. And if you gave off the right intention of, I'm going to kill you, they would be able to sense it and dodge it. So that's kind of like a cool perception that you can build in martial arts. I'd call it like, I don't know, like, I don't know what you call it. You guys can probably help me out with that. It's like a warrior, I don't know if it's like a warrior mindset, but it's like, it's just something that develops. I don't know. But anyway, we were going into the reason I was talking about that is because we were talking about the whole no touch martial arts scene. So yeah, I was talking about a few different things that are in that realm but aren't that. And yeah, and falling on the fact that no touch is just, I believe, is garbage. As much as we may all want it to be true. I mean, I'm the same as everyone else. I'm like a martial artist since I was a little kid. You know, I've seen all the films, I've seen all the stories, I've watched the kung fu movies, I've seen the masters come and go, and I would love no touch. I would love someone to come and be. I've read the stories. I've read in the denshos and the scrolls of like the masters like Takamatsu who could like kiai a bird out of the tree and kill it or whatever. But it's I think it's just all been stories, stories and folklore. Speaking of stories and folklore, though, you must have faith sometimes, because, for instance, there's a skill in the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin. There's like an iron arm, and you train. It's just simple. You just freaking hit your arm on stuff, and you train it every day. And the upper level of that iron arm skill was like, you know, hitting this big freaking onyx pillar or something like that with the forearm of your arm, and I just thought, and it was the weights that they mentioned of what you would be able to hit and move. I was just like, this must be, as a lot of the skills are, this must be in the area of folklore, and that's why I like the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin so much, the manual, because you don't know where the folklore begins and the actual real training ends. So they refer to old masters who could do the skills, but even then you don't know if that's folklore. But the good thing about that, yeah, so someone said they could uproot trees with the Nephirite, I believe that's the Nephirite belt skill. There's two skills in the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin that are the same, ringing around a tree and the Nephirite belt. There's slight differences in the two skills that I don't believe it describes in the book, but maybe they've not been translated or they're lost, or you'd have to practice them to find out. I was doing that Nephirite belt the other day, actually, with my brother. We were laughing when I put a video up of us doing some conditioning on the tree. I was showing him some stuff. Oh no, well, Kyle, I'll tell you how the Nephirite belt skill works, but I just wanted to finish on the iron arm skill that I was talking about. So there's a video cropped up on YouTube or on Facebook or something, and it's just some random obscure Chinese guy somewhere in China who's he's got like a big massive forearm, and I believe he's demonstrating it to someone else, or he's demonstrating it to I think a Japanese guy, and he's hitting the corners. So the sharp edge corners of like marble or granite columns or concrete columns, which yeah, I know the columns are big and they have you know, like the fact that they're long and they're brittle over length, but still these are really strong columns. And this guy's striking these columns with this forearm that he's developed using the iron arm skill, and he's breaking them. He's breaking them over in half, and that when I watched that, I was really amazed, because I was like, that's so good. I'm so pleased I've seen that, because that was the upper level of the iron arm skill, and I thought it was folklore. I didn't think you could, you know. I mean, I believe in a lot of the upper levels of those 72 Secret Arts skills, but that one I was like, I don't know. Or I had my doubts, but then I saw it there with my eyes, and that's what I love about YouTube and this whole internet thing. I saw it there with my eyes, and I was like, yes, you know, now I don't feel so silly about training some of these things or believing in some of them, because I saw the skill. And legitimately, people can say what they want, but if that guy, and because the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin is a very simple manual, but if that guy hits you with that arm of his, you're screwed. And you're really screwed. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen the guy with his bent finger who pierces the coconuts. He's kind of developed his like own version of thing, uprooting from the 5 breathing posture, Franquino form. Yeah. So John just mentioned the uprooting form, where you stand or grabbing a pot or whatever, and that's pretty much the same as, that's probably the difference between ringing around a tree and the Nephirite belt skill. of the 70 secret arts of the Shaolin. But so someone mentioned, so this the Nephirite belt, or the ringing around a tree skill in the 70 secret arts of the Shaolin. So it's so easy, and actually you find similar skills to that repeated in Russia. A lot of and Russian arm wrestling and Russian wrestling, because a lot of there were some Shaolin monks that have somehow escaped to Russia for various reasons, and there's quite a legitimate scene, a past scene in Russia with kung fu people cropping up. But yeah, ringing in essence, ringing around a belt, Yeah, so Nick said that what you can actually do or cultivate in your martial arts is based on a number of factors, like how much you can train, heal, etc. And time. So that's the main thing. We don't have time for these things. Iron's palm and iron skills take so much time. Risk for reward based, We're not monks in the hills. But anyway, back to ringing around a tree. The skill is so simple. You look stupid practicing it, but in essence, you grab a tree and you just hug it. Yeah, you grip it tightly with all your force with your arms and your body, and you also grip it with your legs. So it's practicing like your horse stance, because it's practicing your pulling in, and then also you set your hips down. So it's a really good practice, but again, as John mentioned, if you do the Kui Gong standing posture, you're doing the same things and you're trying to cultivate the same force. But this is interesting because if you've trained ringing around a tree where you're actually holding a tree, so this goes back to the iron wire stuff. If you train ringing around a tree, actually ringing around a tree, and then you train the Qigong posture, it's funny. It's like, which one came first? You will do the things that you are required in that Qigong posture. Your body will do them naturally if you train it on the actual tree. And then when you train it not on the tree, you're meant to do those same things. So it's really interesting. But 72 secret arts of Shaolin are very old. Yeah, so James Wu's teacher could do it with a telephone skull. So it's funny because although the skill's very old, it makes you wonder, well, which one came first? Probably the ringing round a tree skill. Because it's the first one they would train. It's a very simple skill. The kids would be growing up and they'd say to the kids, look, you go and train ringing around a tree. So anyway, in description of the skill, you grab the tree, you grip it, and for the yin and yang, for the hard external training, it starts off as hard external training, because what you're doing, if you've ever grabbed a tree and squeezed it, is immediately you're like training, you're almost training iron shirt, because pulling the tree's very rough. If you do it, even if you do it for a short amount of time, you usually come away with a few grabs and scrapes, because you grab the tree and you squeeze it, and you're putting force into it, so it's teaching your body like a static elastic force. So you're grabbing it and you're squeezing it, and immediately, obviously, it's strengthening your muscles and your muscles and stuff on this side. It's your chest, and you're pulling it in. You're breathing. You're locking your legs around it, and you're really squeezing it tight. So it's an awesome exercise for this static tension exercises that you see in iron wire is very good exercises. And yeah, basically you're holding it. And from a hard external point of view, from a Kung Fu methodology, from a hard external point of view, it's just a great training for training a lot of exterior stuff. And then the next stage is what you do is you obviously you plant your hips and you squeeze, and you then like start to pull up and push down. And this theme of static pressure, or whatever you want to call it, that exists throughout the 72 secret arts of the Shaolin and throughout the methodology of gaining strength in Chinese martial arts, from locking yourself into a position, because you can control. Aboriginals have great bone density, says someone there. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe they do. but you can, so yeah, you lock yourself into a position, and you'll see that theme, and it's even when we train horse stance, you lock yourself into a position, and you can start to generate so much potential energy. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it, like put your hand against the wall. I mean, the Russians do this for arm wrestling or a tree or sumo. Put your hand against the wall and just push with all your might into the static wall, and you'll begin to see the amount of energy you can produce. And it goes on to like Makiwara training and stuff like that. You're doing the same thing where you're just trying to reflect forces off these static things. So I mean, we've gone off on a huge tangent here, but what a cool method of training that is. It's something I wish I would have and could have trained more, but I must admit, like I have done it. I see the mechanics of how it works, but I'm not going to say I've trained it to any great extent, simply because of the fact of, as bad as it sounds, I mean, I've done a lot of conditioning on trees and stuff like that, wrap towels around them, and in sort of park areas and stuff, but I think if you went out and you were just short of being in the Shaolin temple, if you went out and people just saw you like standing there, crutch up to a tree, giving a tree a big hug and like straining, you'd probably get freaking reported to the police or something. And people would be asking questions about you. So that's a shame. So society-wise, it's not really a training method you can... Yeah, like Nick says, every time you hang a punching bag, you're doing it. So yeah, there's a way you could do it at home. Just pick up your punching bag and stand there with your punching bag squeezing it. Well, the only difference is your punching bag's not rooted into the ground. Oh, and finally, in answering to the beginning, I think it was Kyle, something did say, sorry mate, your name flashed up really quick. But so it goes on the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin. The trees were uprooted, but it was after that was the final stage of the training. And if you read it with any kind of like common sense, this was from one person or multiple people training on the same tree, which was a big tree, but training on the same tree for many years. So it was so for instance, if a master trained on the same tree, or by the time he could he did uproot the tree, which is very impossible, but they're saying it's because of the amount of force he was generating, but it's probably more likely because all the tugging on the tree over a very long period of time just killed the tree. And I'll give you an example of this. I'll give you, because you think this, I also thought this doesn't happen, but I'll give you an example of this. So when I went to live in Belgium, I lived in a chalet that was next to where the boss of where I lived worked. So me and my dad lived in this little chalet, and he had a big like I don't know, 30-foot pine tree or 40-foot pine tree outside his chalet, and the pine tree was about this big. So I promise you this is a true story. So the pine tree, and only the people listening now will know about it. So the pine tree was about like this fat, and it was a rough pine tree and stuff like this. So I used to practice every day on the pine tree my conditioning. Yeah, so I'd put my sandbag on it and I'd strike the pine tree, and this was for 6 months. So I'd strike the pine tree with my fist, I'd hit it with my forearms on a sandbag, and then for the chateau, for the chops and some iron palm, I'd take the sandbag down and I'd stand there for, sometimes up to 2 hours, practicing all my different strikes, practicing my forearm strikes, doing a little bit of like ringing round a tree, the skills we were just talking about, and Nephirite belt, doing a little bit of that. But I didn't want them to think I was too weird. But mainly, with full body movements and striking into it with not with full arm force, but with full mechanical body movement force. So the whole body striking in, and the tree. Pretty soon after starting this training, a couple of weeks or months into the training, the tree started to bleed sap. So it was annoying. So from where I'd struck it, not once because I was so powerful, but this tree's so hard, but where I was striking this tree every day, it had obviously wounded the tree. I feel bad about it now, but it obviously wounded the tree. It wore the tree away over time, and the tree started to weep. The tree's pretty clever, actually. This is like, I don't believe I'm sitting here talking to some like people all over the world about some silly tree story. But yeah, the tree started to bleed lots of pine sap, and this was a pain in the ass because it meant I couldn't do my ringing around a tree because there was all this sap, and like I'd get like sticky sap hands and stuff like this. And it was just funny. But then I left. After 6 months, I left. I went to another place, and about 6 months after that, I caught up with the boss, or a couple of months after, and he was like, "Do you know you killed my tree?" And I looked at him, and God's strength. This is a true story. Meuly Facon is the company I worked for in Belgium. It's called Meuly, Muylle, Meulle, Facon, Facon. And the director is a guy called Benoit Meulle. That's why it's Meuly Facon. And he's the guy who owned that chalet. So he can, if you ever bothered to seek him out, he's the director of the Meuly Facon company. He approached me and he said, "You killed my tree." And I looked at him and I was like, "What do you mean I killed your tree? What are you talking about? I killed your tree?" And he said, "Yeah, that freaking tree you used to beat every day, the whole tree died." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, man." And I felt really bad because, like, I've always trained on trees and stuff like that. You read the stories about the old masters and stuff, you get inspired. So I'd always trained on trees. So I trained on this tree for 6 months. And then unfortunately, because of me, this whole beautiful, like, freaking 40-foot whatever pine tree has died. So I kind of feel bad. Yeah, so there we go. So I went off on a tangent again, but that is why I believe in the 72 secret arts of the Shaolin. It says that, a master of that skill, after like 4 years, could uproot a real tree because they had so much power in their bones. They would have so much power, because imagine doing like 4 years of like this one weightlifting action every day. It would just make your body awesomely powerful. But yeah, I think the trees don't like, they don't like this kind of constant hitting. John says pine tree abuse is a crime here. Yeah, I'm sorry, John. I feel bad about it, mate. It's an absolute true story, but it's not. I don't believe it's a testament to me. But now I use it as a little catchphrase, and I think I used it years ago. I've forgotten about it, but I'll use it again now. I used to say to people, you first you train on the tree till you bleed, then you train on the tree till it bleeds, and then you'll know what conditioning is. And like a lot of my students and friends used to like scratch their head, and obviously I say it tongue in cheek because I say everything tongue in cheek, but it's true. If I was just some Chinese sage and I'd said it 100 years ago, it would be instantly cool, or maybe it wouldn't. But people would read it and they'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool. What does it mean?" Or maybe it's just me, but yeah, it was kind of cool. Like I trained on the tree. I was the one bleeding, albeit I had done lots of conditioning before that. But I bled first, then the tree bled. It was kind of like a cool little connection anyway. But yeah, anyway, sorry about that. We went off on some kind of crazy tangent about trees there. That's the sort of thing that I've just... Someone said here about martial artists being able to catch, having good dexterity, being able to catch fish in rivers and stuff. Yeah, I believe it's fully possible. Does it? As we're talking the 72 secret arts of the Shaolin, which I haven't actually talked about in a long time, and the reason I haven't talked about it is I don't want people to think I'm trying to be some kind of fake Shaolin, albeit a lot of the stuff I do and say has Shaolin in it. It's because I enjoy those skills so much. But I've recently, if you go back to my old videos, there was a lot of mention of Shaolin, 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin, because that's what I was referencing, is the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin, not any kind of crap I made up. And that's the reason, if you go back to my very old videos, that's the reason all of that is there. Also because I've trained, as I've said before, my old instructor, he trained Shaolin Kung Fu, and we used to train it together. But that's in the past. But that was, because there's so much cool Shaolin stuff out there, like legitimate Shaolin stuff. If you want to learn Xiao Hong Quan or any of the forms, there's obviously, preferably you go to an instructor, but you know, you can, Shi De Yang, or Shi De, however you pronounce, is one of the freaking top guys for forms Shaolin, from the Shaolin Temple. You can go online here on YouTube and you can see how he does Xiao Hong Quan, and there's pretty much no better example of Xiao Hong Quan other than a few other of the older guys who do like a really old form, and that the other instructor who's left the Shaolin Temple and he's up in the mountains there, he does a really old style form of Shaolin Kung Fu, which is really, like, even for Shaolin standards, is like super traditional. It's like the traditional version of Shaolin Kung Fu, which is awesome. But you know, forgive me, I forget his name. Apologies, but it's, you guys will know who I'm talking about if you follow those circles. But yeah, so that's the reason. You know, you don't see me mentioning a lot of Shaolin stuff anymore, or not branding it up there, because I like to keep my intentions like clear, you know, like, but yeah, as we're talking about the 72 secret arts of the Shaolin, yeah, it's cool. I'm enjoying it. I actually lost my original thread as to why I was talking about what I was going to say, but the other stuff I said before was probably made up for it, mentioning the other Shaolin guys, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, Jesus, 60 minutes. Jesus, I feel sorry for it. I feel sorry for anyone still here 60 minutes later, and I believe someone just left, so good on them. They escaped. But yeah, that was the main reason for making this video. I hope everyone has a good new year, and the training goes well. I've pretty much, we got into a bit of a question and answer thing there, so that was good, and went off on some tangents. But yeah, just thanks for everyone who follows the channel. Keep up your training, keep up the good work, and it's nice to chat you guys. Kyle the Dalek. Yeah, thanks, Kyle the Dalek. The time over here at the moment is, I believe it's about 12 or 1 o'clock, 12:30 in the afternoon. Like I said, the video I posted yesterday of me training with my sandbag, so I did that yesterday. I was hoping to do I did a bit of iron palm training. That's one thing before I go. I'll show you guys because you're still here. I've been doing my iron palm training, but I've been keeping it low key because I've done lots of iron palm videos in the past. And your ideas always change. You also find that the more you do, you know, you start to get ways that perhaps you keep to yourself, or you know, you don't want to influence people as much. You know, just let people do what they want to do. But yeah, I was doing some sort of what I would consider light iron palm training yesterday after I did all my other crap. Yeah, thanks, John. I hope you have a good New Year too. I'll just show you guys before you go. So it's a pretty cool method. I've got these bags here. So I went to the store. I went to Kmart. Yes, we have Kmart here in Australia too. And there's like a cheap ass, or the same bag that I was using for my freaking weighted carries and runs up the hill. It comes with these bags inside it, and you just fill them with sand. You can fill them with whatever you want. I've got one full of sand, and I've got one. I've got one full of sand. 11:30 at night, you poor guys. Yeah, the time differences. So I've got one full of sand. So it weighs about 5 kilos. And then I've got one, this is my own made up bag. Because actually my whole life of doing iron palm, iron sand has been almost impossible for me to get. I know you guys seem to be able to get it in America, but where I lived in where I lived in Wales for all those years when I was doing my original old iron palm videos, I could only get like ball bearings, and they're plated ball bearings. They're like chrome plated or whatever. But from the 72 Secret Arts of Shaolin, I could never get the original stuff for iron, for Hand of Red Sand or whatever. I could never get, or the actual iron palm skill. I could never just get the freaking iron granules. But recently, I bought a weights vest. Well, recently, 10 months ago, I've been using it for lots of my training. And I realized that these weights bags that you get are full of freaking the stuff I've been looking for so many years. So yeah, that was the iron palm training I was doing. So I've now got two of my weights from my weight vest broke, and the iron sand leaked out of them and stuff. So I've got a nice bag of iron sand here. This isn't completed. This is the version I was just using as a weight in my bag, because these leg weights that I use has also got iron sand in. But yeah, this is just an old rice bag. And I've put my weights inside it, and I was testing it out just the other day, and I'm going to modify it, but it works pretty well, and it's just a nice bag of traditional style iron sand, so that's super cool. So I was having to go on that yesterday, but mainly yesterday I just did this old sandbag of mine, because I'm trying to just warm up back into the training before I start freaking going crazy and hitting the iron sand again. But yeah, so I just to quickly show you guys, I just had my bag of sand. This is just normal sand. It's densely packed in. And after I did all my training, I was nice and warmed up. Did a bit of qigong. I was just throwing this from hand to hand, just as a warm up to just get those hands going. I'm not going to do it too much now because I'm like not warmed up at all. And then I was also just gripping and striking this handheld bag like this. And that's just a really basic, simple starter kind of iron palm beginning training that you can do. But it's good because it doesn't focus on any particular bit, and you're just there and you're hitting the whole hand. So it's just a nice, light, easy way to start conditioning your whole hand. And you're striking. You're putting intent in your mind. So like before each strike, you're focusing on, yes, I'm going to strike with that hand. I'm going to strike with that hand. I'm going to strike with that hand. And then obviously the backs of the hands as well. So you strike with the back of the hand, the front of the hand, the back of the hand, the front of the hand. And you just keep working it like that. Put sand on the chair. And no, it was just a really good method. Yeah, it's just a really good method. And also I find, when you're training iron palm a lot, or you put your pad on the surface and you strike it, as we would strike it, you can find yourself getting lazy, like your horse stance starts to raise. Sometimes people train it sitting on a stool, but I try not to be lazy. So I'm like, okay, how can I make this harder for my body, even though iron palm's freaking hard enough? So I'm like, I want to work more. So I'll stand in just a loose horse stance, a more upright one. But yeah, at least if I'm holding this and I'm striking it, I'm working the hand that I'm freaking holding. But anyway, yeah, I'm working one of my hands. But yeah, see you, man. See you guys. Sorry, I did say I was going, and then I started going onto this iron palm shit. I'll probably make another video about that, because I think it's quite a cool way to train it. It's only on a sandbag, but it's great for training the individual digits and stuff like that. But another thing I wanted to do also just before I go is I'm trying to, you'll probably see a few more videos from me where I'm trying to, because I was talking to my brother, and my brother's training MMA, and he's like, look, he came to me because he wanted conditioning, because his fists weren't tough enough and this and that. So he said, look, part of like developing your channel or trying to bring more people in is there's lots of people out there training mixed martial arts. They've just got into it. They don't really know, they go to their thing, they do a lot of practical stuff, but there's a lot of old style conditioning methods that would probably help them. So he said, try and bring these into your channel. So if you guys see videos from me like titled like, I'm just going to put one up now, like, strengthen your grip or strengthen your fingers for BJJ or MMA. Don't be dismayed about that. I'm not selling out. I'm just trying to bring these other martial artists into the conditioning community. Psychology John 64. I will write that down. So that with dots. Psychology, John 64, I'll find it on there. Yeah, so don't think I'm selling out. At the end of the day, I made this channel as a conditioning hub, strength and conditioning. It started from a lot of 72 Secret Arts of Shaolin and Iron Palm conditioning. Then it branched off into obviously all the other stuff I was doing, Qigong, which is part of it, other kinds of endurance conditioning. Now, more recently, I've tried to put out simple basics for people to follow, and then also now I want to bring in some of the BJJ, some of the guys who maybe their minds are a bit closed off, some of the BJJ guys, some of the MMA guys, who I think we've got a lot of conditioning methods that would help them. You know, and we just need to drop our guards, or they need to open their minds with regards to the trainings that they can use to help them train. But yeah, anyway, look, on that note, I've crapped on for way too long. I need to have a piss as well. But yeah, no, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys have a good new year, as I've said about 5 times now. Good training to you. I'll leave this video up on YouTube for probably a couple of weeks or days, and then I'll probably chuck it over to Patreon, because it's you know, people probably won't be interested in listening to me gas on for 70 minutes. But yeah, okay, thanks for turning up. Thanks for the questions and answers and stuff, and please do post your opinions, and yeah, happy training, Nick. If you're still around, I don't know if you are, but have a good new year, mate. It's always good to chat to you. And yeah, I'll catch you guys around. If you have any critiques or comments on the trade, there's Nick. If you have any critiques or comments on the stuff you see or what I do, or some criticisms, please do post them up as well. If you think I'm just putting up too much crap or whatever, just tell me. But there's loads of crap on YouTube, so meh. Okay, guys, I will leave you guys now. I don't even know how to leave this thing. I'll press that button. See ya, Kyle the Dalek. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you guys around.